That's the last name for me because I never get it right. Richard
Castiglione.
Joe Castiglione, athletic director at Oklahoma, announced today that he is retiring. Now,
badly as you want to be like Castiglione.
It's not Castiglione.
Just go
It's not Castiglione. It's Joe Castiglione. Or Joe C, if you prefer.
Yeah. So he's doing the full retirement tour here. He's going to play out the rest. I guess. He's going to work out the rest of the academic year. So he will be there this football season and all that. And then, they'll have a successor. Now, when Zack Selman was hired here at Mississippi State, we all said, well, he'll do some on-the-job training, and then when it's time to go back to Oklahoma, that's probably what's going to happen. My question is, and I guess I have to ask it of myself in this situation because I'm talking, has Zack Selman done enough to get one of the top 5 jobs in all of college athletics as that athletic director? He's done quite a bit of good here at Mississippi State. State's fundraising is at record levels. He just put together an incredible hire for the baseball program. The facilities master plan, I am very hopeful that regardless of who the athletic director is, that plan is in place going forward, that there's not going to have a situation where you come in, you get a new leader, and he's like, I want to make some changes. Don't need that. You need to move forward and push forward with what they have. But Oklahoma is a school that I think the three of us would agree that is likely to be looking for a new football coach pretty soon. I have zero faith in Brent Venables to turn that program the direction that it expects to go, which is to be a contender for the college football playoff year in and year out. And when your only football hire is a guy who went 2-10, that's a tough mark on the resume. So, Richard, I would ask you, we'll start with you. What do you think? Do you think that Zack Selman should be a candidate for this Oklahoma job?
Well, I'm glad you outlined some of the things you did from an accomplishment standpoint, because I think that's important. Because I was going to ask you, hey, what do you, how do you quantify or qualify his accomplishments? Mm-hmm. There are people who will hear me say this that think it's a shot, and it's not. It's just not. Mississippi State may be the hardest athletics director job in the SEC. Mm-hmm. The budget is smaller than basically everybody else in the league. Maybe not basically. I think it's the smallest athletics budget in the SEC. And even though it has grown, I mean, it's 4X or 5X where it was 20 years ago, it still has the gap between those above it and where it is it hasn't gotten smaller. In fact, maybe it's even gotten bigger over the course of time. So when you say, yes, you can point to fundraising success, okay, that's a big deal. And you're right. I mean, there have been a lot of announcements, a lot of very public announcements that Mississippi State has made with either pledges or donations from a fundraising standpoint, and that is probably job number one.
Yeah.
The facilities thing is always, it feels like that's something that you've always got to have in your repertoire to be able to show, well, this is the facilities project we started while I was here. And I think he would point to the Brian O'Connor hire. Here's why I think he gets a pass on Jeff Lebby. Oklahoma football views itself as Mississippi State baseball. And I think if you are interviewing a guy like Zack Selman, then Oklahoma people could say, and again, this is how they might justify it if they were to go down that road. They'd go, yeah, but he was trying to hire a guy at Mississippi State. That might be the way some people in that interview room say it. And then you go, but look what he did at Mississippi State for a sport they had invested heavily in. We invest in football at Oklahoma the way Mississippi State invests in baseball in Starkville. And so when he has the resources and the tradition and the stadium and the infrastructure and the donations and all of those things, there's the evidence that he can go out and hire one of, if not the best coaches in the country.
Something you said there, Richard, I want to ask you about it, Bork. He talked about Selman being a great fundraiser, and he is. He has done a great job with that. Is that super important at Oklahoma? I feel like the school
Absolutely.
But they're going to have money. They don't have to push, do they?
Yeah, but it ain't Texas. It ain't Texas A&M. It ain't Georgia. It ain't Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah.
It ain't Florida. Ain't LSU.
I mean, the Bunky Perkins oil fund should be rolling over there, you would think.
Well, he's investing in Jackson Super now.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. The Ole Miss Golf Suns.
Isn't the big question not so much about what he's done at Mississippi State and more so about how much capital did he build up during his time at Oklahoma?
Possible.
I think that's reasonable.
And, of course, his name is royalty in the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And by the way, until this kind of recent string of successes, there were a lot of Mississippi State fans and people even around the department that weren't just real high on Zack Selman.
Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah.
It took a while for...
They needed to see some results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's that job, right? When he got hired, I remember you in particular, Haydad, talking about him and you didn't think it would be a guy that would just go from one to the next, right? You thought that he would plant some roots and plant some seeds and build the department. And then there was the, unless Oklahoma comes open. I mean, that was always the caveat when he was hired is, sounds like it's a guy that's going to plant his roots and be around for a while until Oklahoma comes open. And so this is that job, kind of like, not too dissimilar to when Alabama came open last year in football. It was... that's the job that if it's offered to Lane Kiffin, he'll take that job.
But look here, we're having this conversation because it's relevant because Zack Selman is a guy who has said, oh, that could be a future guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the only one.
No, there's
right. And you've got guys that have way more experience, way more accomplishment, who are also part of the Joe Castiglione legacy or tree. The story at ESPN, what does it say? 32 of his employees between his time at Missouri and Oklahoma have gone on to become athletics directors or commissioners.
That's an insane number. That's
pretty good treat.
It's insane. So, yeah, this could be one of those things, very not too dissimilar to Ace Reese, where don't worry about it until you're given a reason to. One of those kind of things.
There's certainly a world where Zack Selman doesn't even get offered this job.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody on the text line says, how is saying Mississippi State is the hardest AD job not a shot? LOL. It's just reality.
So this is from
there
2024.
There are fewer resources with higher expectations at Mississippi State than any other place in the SEC. Therefore, by definition, it becomes a harder job. If you have less and you are expected to do more, then that's difficult. That having more and expecting to do more, having more and being expected to do less.
This is from 2024, so things may have changed in a year, but in 2024, Mississippi State did have the lowest reported budget in the SEC at $110 million, $23.5 million behind Ole Miss, $31 million behind Missouri and South Carolina, $42 million behind Arkansas and Tennessee, $49 million behind Kentucky, and so on.
And Vandy doesn't report.
Vandy does not report.
And Vandy's budget could probably be whatever it wanted it to be. They may only spend $80 million on sports, or they may spend $180 million. I don't think they're spending $180 million, but you get the idea. If they wanted to, they could.
One thing on the budget side of it, though, is the Mississippi schools, both of them, do not sponsor as many sports as other of their counterparts in the SEC do.
That is correct. Is it 16?
16. They both are at the minimum, right?
Yeah.
Whereas LSU's got like 30.
But maybe I didn't finish the thought. I think Zack Selman's done a pretty good job, especially given how difficult that job is, was kind of the point that I was making.
Absolutely. For me, I'm just trying to like feel my way around this. Like, when Mullen was here and his name would pop up all the time, like, it wasn't until he really left that I never really thought he was going to Miami. I didn't think that he was going to go to, Virginia Tech or anything like that. But when it was Tennessee and Florida, then I was like, okay, those are real opportunities there. He might take one of them. That's very likely that he will. And he did.
Retrospect was going to take one of them. He was going to take one of them and then ended up taking the other one.
That is exactly correct. That's exactly how that played out. this is the same thing. You know, I know that like Selman's name was thrown in with, I think, Arizona State and Missouri. And good jobs, don't get me wrong. But I never really took any of that seriously. This is one I'll take seriously. This is one where I'm like, all right, if he wants this one and they want to offer it to him, he's probably going to go. That's where I am right now. So until, you know, the thing is, we have plenty of time. They're not going to announce this hire this week.
Yeah.
The guy's going to work the rest of the year. So, you know, maybe that's a bad thing because it hangs over your head for a long time. And you're just wondering. And even if Zack Selman puts out a statement that says, I'm committed to Mississippi State, you know, we're very much in the beginning of what we have planned here, and I'm not going anywhere. I mean, we all know that's a load. As soon as if Oklahoma offers him the job, the next day he's going to go. So for me, it's just going to be a waiting game.
That can be a good thing too, though, right? Because Mark Keenum now he wouldn't be blindsided, right? That you have a long time to prepare yourself for the possibility of losing your athletic director should that day come. It's not like, you know, boom, it happened today.
Yeah.
And you're left thinking, oh, crap, I've got to replace this guy. I wasn't expecting it.
I'm not putting together a hot board today.
No.
Put it that way. There will be no Hey Dad hot board for athletic director on today's show.
Hey Dad, it's July. Hey Dad hot board, volume 1. Let's go.
But if you had to do it, who would be what?
The Hey Dad hot board today would be July 7th. It's hot. It's hot outside. That's the board. Yeah. I mean, some of the names that would pop up would be the same ones that were there when Zack Selman was hired. Alford at Florida State, who has Mississippi State connections. Wicker, is that his name? At San Diego State. Who's
a senator?
No.
More on Cross in the Morning tomorrow.
Yeah, leave that on the other show. Would be one you would probably look at.
Wouldn't be the first time Mississippi State went to a position of leadership in Washington for a position of leadership in
I'm just saying, you know. I don't know if Roger Wicker's the guy for this job, but hey, you know, we're willing to interview. You know, we'll talk to him and at least get his ideas. And then, you know, internally, the guy, if State were just focused on, hey, we want to keep some continuity here, I would not suggest that. I would do the exact same thing I did when Zack Selman was hired. I would look outside. Like I feel like outside perspective is something Mississippi State needs more of,
especially in this era, man.
Yeah. But if they were going to keep it in, I think one of Selman's top guys is Terry Prentice. I think he will probably be an athletic director at some point in his career. And, you know, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like State right now, where they are, they need somebody who's done it before. They don't need to be the on-the-job training.